Xuanyuan Lingfei knew from a young age that he had a fiancée he had never met before, which his father had arranged for him. However, his mother did not agree because his parents were separated, and Xuanyuan Lingfei himself did not agree. Therefore, his first act as an adult was to come down the mountain and try his best to withdraw the engagement. But a long, long time later, my good brother asked him what he regretted the most. He felt that this was the only thing in his life, and that it was a termination of his engagement. Chapter 1. First Encounter in a Restaurant. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Many years later, the voice still echoed in his ears. When the snow falls on 1,000 mountains, how will you share this prosperous era with me? At that time, the young man was charming and held up a bowl filled with strong liquor, saying to him unrestrained. He nodded lightly, realizing that she had become an indelible brilliance in his heart at that moment. Qian Kingdom is located in the Central Plains region, backed by towering snow-capped mountains, covered in snow all year round, and rarely visited by humans. To the north lies the desert, where the Rong ethnic group lives between the desert and the northernmost city of Luo. The climate in the southwest is humid. 100 years ago, it was a fiefdom of the king of Chu. Later, over 100 years, its influence gradually grew and it became the state of Chu. On the mountain at the border of Chu and Qian, due to the dangerous terrain, it has been dominated by a sect for a long time, which is the Xuanyuan Gate. Many years ago, the Qianhua kingdom also unified various small neighboring countries, but as time passed, its strength gradually weakened and the power of the martial arts world rose. Among them, Xuanyuan Gate and Sword Pavilion were the strongest. Because Xuanyuan Gate leader Xuanyuan Zhen was saved by a young soldier named Yi Xiang when he was young, the two became brothers. The Qianhua kingdom leader took good care of Yi Xiang for Xuanyuan Zhen's sake, while Yi Xiang was brave and scheming. Over a decade ago, the Rong tribe committed a crime and he led his troops to defeat the enemy, becoming a hero of the Qianhua people. In the same year, Lady Yi had a difficult childbirth and was on the brink of death. Xuanyuan arrived and took the medicine passed down from the Xuanyuan family, and spent several years of effort to save Lady Yi and her child. In gratitude, Yi Xiang proposed that the two families become relatives and betrothed his daughter to Xuanyuan's only son, Xuanyuan Lingfei. Xuanyuan readily agreed and named the newborn child Yi Lingxue. After learning about this, Emperor Qian personally arranged marriage for both families. More than a decade later, the Xuanyuan Gate became dominant in the martial arts world, and the Sword Pavilion gradually retreated. A month ago, a martial arts conference was held, and the young master of the Xuanyuan Gate, Xuanyuan Lingfei, defeated the young master of the Sword Pavilion, Lin Haoyu, and won first place. The marriage relationship between the Xuanyuan Gate and the Yi family, including the heroic deeds of Yi Xiang more than a decade ago, was naturally brought up again. The largest restaurant in the capital, the Drunken Hometown Tower, is full of guests, and people say enthusiastically, "I didn't expect that." Over the years, the power of the Xuanyuan Gate has become even stronger. The young master of Xuanyuan Lingfei, cannot be underestimated. Another person said, "Yes. It's rumored that the young master Xuanyuan not only has good martial arts, but also is a young master like a jade, unparalleled in the world. It's a pity that such a good person has arranged a baby marriage with the useless miss of the Yi family. What a pity. If it weren't for Yi General's defeat of the Rong tribe more than a decade ago, there wouldn't have been us sitting here chatting and laughing happily. No matter how useless she is also Yi General's daughter. Hey, we naturally miss General Yi, but you don't know how useless his daughter is. I heard that she doesn't even know how to play music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. She doesn't even know how to become a female celebrity. She's useless. Moreover, she's arrogant and likes to bully her servants. I really don't know how an excellent person like General Yi could have such a daughter. I heard that the young master Xuanyuan has been inseparable from his cousin Yu Ruiyan all along. In my opinion, this divorce should not be far away." In the compartment on the second floor, a servant angrily said, "Young master, listen to what these people outside are saying. It's too much. They just talk nonsense without knowing anything, and I'll teach them a lesson. On the soft couch, there was a young man lying with a somewhat indifferent expression. After hearing these words, he said, "Ah Qing, it's not strange if you don't know. You can say whatever others like, just listen as a joke. This time I took you out, why are you so reckless? If I had known, I would have taken Ah Jin out." The young man sat up and poured himself a cup of tea. When the servant heard this, he grumbled a few words with some dissatisfaction. Suddenly, someone outside the curtain laughed and said, "Brother Lin, I didn't expect us to have such a fate to meet in this capital city." The boy heard the sound outside the curtain and his face turned a bit unpleasant, but he still sat up to welcome him out. Unexpectedly, the visitor had already walked in on his own. The visitor was also dressed in a white brocade robe, with fine needle and thread, and silver thread was used to outline the corners, wrapping around his handsome and upright body. He gently shook a folding fan in his hand. Looking at his face again, it was as fair as jade, with a high and straight nose bridge and thin lips gently curved upwards, indicating that he was in a great mood. Seeing this person, Ah Qing was stunned and thought to herself, among the people I've seen in these years, even if they're as handsome as the third prince and as handsome as the young Master Lin, they can't compare to this person in front of me. The young man was also stunned by the sudden and bright smile of the person. The visitor spoke up and said, "Brother Lin, we've been apart for half a year. You left without saying a word. I thought we wouldn't see each other again, but I didn't expect it to be so coincidental." As he reached out his hand to pull the boy's sleeve, the boy dodged and asked, "How did Master Xuanyuan come to the capital?" The person who came was the protagonist in people's mouths just now. Xuanyuan Lingfei. Xuanyuan Lingfei saw the young man dodge and walked around the table like a nobody, saying, "There are some things to do." The young man glanced behind Xuanyuan Lingfei and said, "Are you alone? Where is your childhood sweetheart, the jade girl?" Xuanyuan Lingfei paused in his footsteps and said, "You said Rian. She should be here in a few days." He sat down on a chair and looked at the young man. Ah Qing finally realized that the person was Xuanyuan Lingfei, and she felt a little angry. She said, "Young master, we should go back now. It's not easy to explain to our family after being out for so long." The young man looked at Ah Qing in confusion and sat down, saying, "It's okay, don't worry." Ah Qing said again, "If Madam knew that the young master was dating someone of unknown origin, she would be angry." Xuanyuan Lingfei fiddled with the tea on the table and said, "Brother Lin, you little servant are a bit interesting." The young man said, "Ah Qing, don't be impolite. This is the young master of Xuanyuan sect." Ah Qing was speechless for a moment. If he hadn't known he was Xuanyuan Lingfei, he wouldn't have been in a hurry to let the young master leave. This Xuanyuan Lingfei looks like a righteous gentleman, but from what he has done, it seems that he is not a good person at all. The young man apologized to Xuanyuan Lingfei, "I am unreasonable, Xuanyuan brother, don't take offense." Xuanyuan Lingfei didn't pay much attention and asked the young man, "That day, Brother Lin said that the desert wanted to invite me and the Snow Mountain old man to drink. Do you remember?" The young man said, "Remember." Xuanyuan Lingfei was about to ask when he heard a voice outside the compartment say, "I've been searching for you but haven't seen you, and I expected you to be here again." The boy heard the sound of someone coming and jumped up. He ran out and lifted the curtain to see the person standing outside. He couldn't hide his smile and exclaimed in surprise, "Senior brother, you're here." The newcomer was dressed in a green shirt, with only a jade pendant around his waist and a long sword in his hand. When he saw the young man running out, he also smiled and reached out to touch his head. The young man has already hung on to the incoming person. Xuanyuan Lingfei saw the young man come out and followed him. He saw that the young man was completely different from his guard when he was with him. He looked at the person and said, "I didn't expect us to meet so soon, brother, how you?" The person who came heard Xuanyuan Lingfei's voice froze for a moment, and the young man also got off the person and stood beside him. The visitor said, "Young Master Xuanyuan, don't be safe. I didn't expect to see you again so soon after the martial arts conference." The person who came was Lin Haoyu, the young master of the Sword Pavilion, who won second place at the martial arts convention a month ago. The young man looked at the two people and said, "Have you finished chatting? After chatting, let's go in and eat." He then walked into the compartment first. Lin Haoyu looked at the young man and coquettishly shook his head, saying, "Junior brother, you're reckless. Don't blame young Master Xuanyuan. Let's go in." A few people walked into the compartment. Chapter 2. Childhood Sweethearts. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Lin Haoyu and Xuanyuan Lingfei sat down on both sides of the boy, and Lin Haoyu asked, "How did Xuanyuan young master get to know my junior brother?" Xuanyuan Lingfei glanced at the young man beside him and said, "I knew she was a woman for a long time, but she always dresses like a man, so I also called her brother. Since there are no outsiders here, Brother Haoyu doesn't need to hide it from me." Lin Haoyu glanced at the person sitting next to him and saw that she didn't object. He smiled and said, "So Brother Xuanyuan knows." Xuanyuan Lingfei said, "People don't know that Lin Jin, the second son of the Sword Pavilion, is actually a woman. No wonder the entire Sword Pavilion is entrusted to Brother Haoyu to take care of. Brother Lin spends years playing outside. It seems that there are rumors that are true and false." Lin Haoyu was taken aback for a moment, then understood what Xuanyuan Lingfei meant and said, "My junior sister is playful and capricious. She is not in the Sword Pavilion all year round, so my father did not entrust her with any important responsibilities. He just hoped that she wouldn't cause trouble." He smiled and looked at the junior sister next to him, seeing that she didn't know what she was thinking and didn't respond. At this moment, the food came up and a few people finished their meals. Lin Haoyu asked, "Are you going with me to another courtyard or?" Lin Jin asked, "Where is Brother Xuanyuan staying? Do you want to stay at my senior brother's other courtyard?" Xuanyuan Lingfei shook his head and said, "No need, I received a message that Ruyan is coming tomorrow. I'll just wait for her in the drunken hometown building. Why don't you guys not go back tonight? Let's have a drink and have fun." Before Lin Jin could speak, Lin Haoyu had already spoken. Jin is still young and not suitable for drinking. Besides, Brother Xuanyuan still has to wait. Let's forget about tonight. Lin Jin continued, "It seems we are going to disappoint Brother Xuanyuan's kindness. We will live in another courtyard outside the city, and Brother Xuanyuan can come to us anytime." Xuanyuan Lingfei pursed her lips. Seeing her this time, she ignored her and didn't force her to stay. She said, "Then let's meet again another day. Anyway, I'll stay in the capital for a few more days." Lin Haoyu and the young man nodded and stood up to bid farewell. After leaving the drunken hometown building, a few people got into the carriage, and the young man leaned against Lin Haoyu and said, "Senior brother, you've eaten too much. I'll take a nap first and call me when it's time." Lin Haoyu straightened her up and said with a chuckle, "Sit down, a girl's family, what kind of behavior? You're not going back to the night mansion anymore. Your parents are looking for you. As soon as you come out, you'll pretend to be your second senior brother. You're not afraid he'll come back another day." It turned out that the young man was the daughter of the night mansion, Yi Lingxue, disguised as a man. After listening to Lin Haoyu's words, Yi Lingxue reluctantly sat down, opened her eyes, and said sullenly, "Senior brother, I'll tell you about these things another day. I really haven't slept well for several days. Today, I secretly sneaked out to rest in the drunken village building." Lin Haoyu exclaimed in surprise, "What happened? You can't sleep well at your own house either." Before Yi Lingxue could speak, Qin next to her complained, "Master Lin, it's not the young Master Xuanyuan yet. I don't know where the old master and his wife heard the news from. They said that the young master Xuanyuan is coming to Beijing to withdraw his marriage in the next few days, and they are so anxious that they can't come up with any good solutions. The young lady hasn't rested well either. Lin Haoyu listened and looked at Yi Lingxue with some sadness, saying, "What are you planning to do?" Yi Lingxue said, "After waiting for so many years, isn't it just for this day? Rumors and so on, I really don't care, it's just my parents. I hope they can understand." Lin Haoyu said, "Yes, uncle and aunt may be more transparent than us." Yi Lingxue said, "Senior brother, why did you suddenly come?" Lin Haoyu said, "Dad, don't worry. Let me help you. I'll stay in the capital for this period of time." Yi Lingxue smiled at the words and said, "It's okay, you'll be much more at ease with me." Lin Haoyu asked, "Are you really not going back today?" Lin Haoyu has already visited the night mansion in the morning, and it is not suitable for him to live in the night mansion as a Jianhu person, so he always comes in his own separate courtyard. Yi Lingxue said, "Senior brother finally came. I will ask Qing to go back and tell my parents later, and they can understand." She smiled and said, "I haven't seen senior brother for many days. I want to eat the food made by senior brother." During the conversation, Yi Lingxue went to the other courtyard. She asked Qing to go back and deliver a message, and she lived in the other courtyard of Lin Mansion. Due to not staying for a long time, Lin Haoyu couldn't help but send his subordinates to clean up. Unconsciously, the sky was getting dark, and Yi Lingxue and others were bored. They went back to their room first. As soon as they turned around the hallway, they found someone on the roof. She flew up and saw Xuanyuan Lingfei, with 2 jars of wine beside her. When she came up and looked at her, Yi Lingxue secretly felt grateful that she had not removed the disfigurement on her face. She asked, "Are you here to drink?" Xuanyuan Lingfei smiled and said, "I'm bored alone and don't know what good places to go in the capital. So I came to find you. I didn't expect that this Lin Mansion's other courtyard would also make it easy for me to find it." Yi Lingxue said, "Master Xuanyuan, this is the capital, not the martial arts world. It's really inappropriate for you to sit on someone else's roof at night like this, isn't it?" Xuanyuan Lingfei didn't care when he heard this and said, "Are you still talking to me about this? Come and drink." Yi Lingxue had no choice but to walk over and sit down next to him. She picked up a jar of wine and took a sip before asking, "Are you coming to Beijing this time to get married?" Xuanyuan Lingfei saw her take the initiative to ask and candidly said, "I have this plan." Yi Lingxue didn't react much when she heard this, just said, "You don't care about the face of Yi Mansion at all." Xuanyuan Lingfei said, "The night mansion is the imperial court, and Xuanyuan Gate is in the martial arts world. There shouldn't have been any involvement." Yi Lingxue asked again, "What about Yi Lingxue? A girl's face is always important." Xuanyuan Lingfei said, "We haven't even met before. I heard that Miss Yi Mansion is only suitable for staying in her room, and I am destined to live a life of fighting and killing. It's not a good relationship, so it's better to break up early." Yi Lingxue was so calm that when she heard others evaluate her like this, she was also a bit angry. Suddenly, she became a little angry and said, "You haven't even seen each other before, just believe the rumors and frame someone to death." Xuanyuan Lingfei asked in reverse, "Lin Jin, are you asking this because you care about my affairs or your senior brother's affairs? Does Yi Lingxue have a crush? Is it your senior brother?" Yi Lingxue said, "Why are you asking so? What's the relationship with my senior brother? Others can't give you advice, but you haven't met before and don't have much relationship. Besides, you have your childhood sweetheart, so naturally she also has her. It's best not to force each other." Xuanyuan Lingfei said, "Your senior brother's first thing to do today is to go to the night mansion. Didn't he tell you? Your sword pavilion doesn't ask about court affairs, but he hasn't been running to the night mansion in the capital for many years. It's hard not to make people think too much. Don't you also listen to rumors, my childhood sweetheart?" Upon hearing these words, Yi Lingshue's lips twitched, thinking that with Xuanyuan's strength, it would be easy to track her senior brother's whereabouts. Fortunately, he knew all about this and retorted, well, after all, we've been together since childhood. Isn't your Qingmei Yuru Yan? Is she more suitable for you than Yi Lingxue? Xuanyuan Lingfei thought for a moment and said, is Ruyan. In comparison, she is indeed more suitable than Yi Lingxue. At least she is from the martial arts world. Yi Lingxue said, that's it. Xuanyuan Lingfei asked with some anticipation, and you? Do you have any? Yi Lingxue frowned and was about to answer when she saw Lin Haoyu flying up and saying, Master Xuanyuan, running to someone else's roof without saying hello is not a behavior of a righteous person. Chapter 3. The Long Future. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yi Lingxue stood up and asked, Senior brother, is the meal ready? Lin Haoyu nodded and said to Xuanyuan Lingfei, Xuanyuan Shao mainly wanted to come. In the daytime, the main door is open, and we can let the servant report that we will greet you respectfully. Now that it is late, what would you think if someone saw you on the roof of a girl's house? Please go back, I apologize for not accompanying you. He walked up to Yi Lingxue and pulled her down. Xuanyuan Lingfei apologized and said, Brother Haoyu, don't be angry. I'm just here to drink, so I'll go back. He knew it wasn't right, but he just wanted to come and see Yi Lingxue. After seeing her for so long, he wanted to get along with her more. Just the person in front of me, seemingly unaware of his thoughts, kept avoiding him. Lin Haoyu and Yi Lingxue descended from the roof. Lin Haoyu remembered that Xuanyuan Lingfei had unknowingly arrived at the place where his junior sister lived, and his face was not very good looking. Yi Lingxue saw this and said, Senior brother, it's just a small matter. It's not worth your anger. Let's go eat. Lin Haoyu saw that Yi Lingxue was not on guard against Xuanyuan Lingfei and asked, Junior sister, how did you get to know Xuanyuan Lingfei? Yi Lingxue said, last time I went to the north, I accidentally met him. He always thought I was the second senior brother, and I didn't reveal it, but he accidentally discovered that I was a woman. Lin Haoyu said, don't you reject him. Yi Lingxue heard the words and said, Xuanyuan Lingfei is a good friend and quite righteous. As for marriage, he is also a victim like me. At least for now, he has not done anything harmful to me, so I do not reject him. Upon hearing this, Lin Haoyu didn't say anything anymore. The two of them went to the front hall to have dinner. Lin Haoyu was afraid that Xuanyuan Lingfei would come to haunt him again, so he personally escorted Yi Lingxue back to his room. When he turned around and left, Yi Lingxue asked, Senior brother, do you have anything else to do? I see you have a heavy heart. Lin Haoyu saw her take the initiative to ask and said, Junior sister, what you just said to Xuanyuan Lingfei was serious. Yi Lingxue saw him asking this question, but she didn't expect her senior brother to hear her fabricated words. She quickly explained, Senior brother, don't get angry. Those are just jokes. I really can't find any good excuses, so I took you to arrange it, hoping to make Xuanyuan Lingfei give up. Upon hearing these words, Lin Haoyu's face turned pale and he struggled to squeeze out a hint of a smile, saying, So you're joking, it's okay. You go to bed early, and I'll go back with you tomorrow. He turned around and walked out of the room. Yi Lingxue saw that Lin Haoyu's face had become even worse after listening to her words. She seemed to feel something and didn't delve into it. The day was tiring enough, so she immediately went to sleep. Lin Haoyu walked out of the room and breathed a long sigh of relief. He was glad that he hadn't lost control just now. He had long known that she thought of him as a senior brother in her heart, but he was still very sad. At least they spend time together day and night, and the future is long, isn't it? Thinking of these, I feel a little better. The next morning, Lin Haoyu saw that Yi Lingxue had not woken up for a long time and had no choice. He went to Yi Mansion first and discussed countermeasures with Yi Xiang. Yi Lingxue woke up almost noon when Qin came in and saw her young lady holding a blanket in a daze. Qin complained, "Miss, Lin Gongzi came to see you early in the morning. Seeing that you hadn't woken up, he ordered us not to disturb you. We went to visit the master alone, but it was already noon." Yi Lingxue jumped up and said, "Why don't you call me? I'll be scolded again if my senior brother goes back alone. Quick, my clothes. Miss, you know you're in a hurry now. Oh, please slow down. Which miss is like you? Madam, when she sees it, she's going to nag again." Qin couldn't help but mutter as she saw Yi Lingxue jump off the bed and look for clothes. "My mother hasn't talked about you yet. You've talked about it several times," Yi Lingxue said to Qin as she put on her shoes. She saw that Qin had brought a set of men's clothing and said, "Wear women's clothing. You should go change into women's clothing too quickly, there won't be enough time to go back." Qin also knew that her master did not allow the young lady to wear men's clothing, so she hurriedly went to change. The two of them dressed properly, removed all the things that changed their faces, and hurried to the general's mansion. The carriage rushed forward in a hurry and suddenly came to a stop. Yi Lingxue and Qin were also thrown upside down. Qin lifted the curtain and wanted to find out, but someone immediately scolded, "Hurry up and leave." Yi Lingxue didn't want to argue with anyone. Just as she wanted someone to move the carriage away, she heard someone among the onlookers say, "Isn't this the carriage of Yi Mansion? It's so lively now." Before Yi Lingxue could understand what was going on, she heard a female voice immediately ask, "Is that the carriage from the general's mansion across from you? Who is inside?" The groom said, "Miss General's mansion. I didn't expect to run into Miss Yi as soon as I entered the capital. I'm Yuru Yan, and I really had a chance." Yi Lingxue just opened the car door and leaned out half of her body. She looked at several people on the opposite horse, and there was a woman sitting on a horse in the middle, dressed in a pink dress, indeed beautiful and charming, with a martial arts aura. Yi Lingxue smiled and said, "So it's Miss Yu. I've been looking up for a long time, so I'll make way for you." Then she instructed the coachman to make way and put down the curtain. Yu Ruyan suddenly jumped off her horse and exclaimed happily, "Brother Xuanyuan, are you here to pick me up?" Xuanyuan Lingfei stood behind the carriage at some point. He walked up and took the reins from Yu Ruyan's hand, saying, Let's go to the inn." Yu Ruyan glanced at the horse lane and said, "Brother Xuanyuan, Miss Yi is on the carriage." Xuanyuan Lingfei paused slightly, leading his horse and carriage in the wrong direction. Yi Lingxue was about to close the car door when someone jumped onto the horse lane and said, "Take a ride, I'll also go to the night mansion." Chapter 4. Yi Lingxue, upon seeing that it was the fourth prince Qianyu, couldn't help but refuse and said, "You grand fourth prince, why do you still need to ride on my broken carriage?" Qianyu said, "No, it's just right. Quickly move inside and let me in." He pushed Yi Lingxue inside with all his might. Yi Lingxue couldn't hold on to him and said, "Qianyu, don't go too far. Believe it or not, I'll kick you down." Everyone looked at each other as they listened to the two people cursing without any hesitation. The young master Xuanyuan and his beautiful confidant have indeed arrived in the capital. Xuanyuan is indeed a rare young talent in the world, with a jade tree and a beautiful woman like Yu Ruyan. Looking at the ladies of the capital, there is really no match for her, at least in terms of appearance. I actually saw Miss Yi Fu today. Although she was dressed in plain clothes, she was not inferior to Yu Ruyan in comparison. It doesn't seem as useless as rumored. There is also the fourth prince, who looks cynical and not easy to deal with. Although he ignores the court, he is favored by the emperor and empress and has a thriving relationship with Yi Lingxue. Unexpectedly, he has such a good relationship with Yi Lingxue. Chapter 4. Don't worry for now. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. After the carriage left, Yi Lingxue asked, "What are you doing at my house?" Qianyu said, "At least I am the fourth prince. Of course, going to the general's mansion has official business. Yi Lingxue asked, what business are you going to talk about in the night mansion? Did you come out because you heard my senior brother come? Xuanyuan raised his hand and tapped Yi Lingxue, saying, you're smart. He did indeed hear that Lin Haoyu had arrived. Although Xuanyuan was the prince, his closest brother was only the second prince Qian Yi, and their relationship was not very good. He had been running out of the palace to play with the empress since childhood and met Yi Lingxue. Later, he naturally met Lin Haoyu and felt that he had a similar temperament to Lin Haoyu. Although Lin Haoyu appeared indifferent on the surface, he was actually very easy to get along with. Since he met Lin Haoyu, Xuanyuan has been making excuses to run to the night mansion, spending more than 10 years with Yi Lingxue and Lin Haoyu. Xuanyuan Lingfei received Yurian from here and walked to the entrance of Xuexiang building. Yurian asked, Xuanyuan brother, why don't you live in another courtyard? Xuanyuan Lingfei glanced at her and said, I didn't expect my cousin to know my whereabouts very well. Yurian replied, Auntie asked me to take care of you, so I naturally need to pay attention. I ran into Yi Lingxue on the street today, and my cousin didn't say hello. Is this determined to withdraw from the marriage? Auntie's intention is also to ask you to withdraw from the marriage as soon as possible, after all, that Yi Lingxue is not worthy of your cousin. She didn't avoid suspicion in the public, so she directly let the fourth prince get on her carriage. Others can't say what to say about her. Xuanyuan Lingfei heard Yurian's words and thought of something, saying to her, you stay first, I have some business to go out. Yurian spoke and walked straight away. In the midst of the fourth prince's despicable demeanor and the impatience of Yi Lingxue, he finally arrived at the general's mansion. Inside the general's mansion, General Yi and Lin Haoyu happened to be discussing Yi Lingxue's marriage. Upon hearing the news from the servant that Yi Lingxue had returned, General Yi snorted softly, this stinky girl, you still know you'll come back. As soon as Yi Lingxue arrived in front of the hall, she heard her father snort and couldn't help but spit out her tongue. Father, your daughter is back. Lin Haoyu and Xuanyuan couldn't help but laugh at her mischievous appearance. General Yi angrily said, don't give me a slick tune. I'll deal with you later. Why did the fourth prince come? Please come in quickly. After several people took their seats, they chatted aimlessly, saying that Yi Lingxue was about to fall asleep. General Yi suddenly sighed and Xuanyuan asked, why is General Yi sighing? Yi Xiang said, it's not this girl's marriage yet. Upon hearing them mention her, Yi Lingxue suddenly woke up and said, Dad, you don't care. What I don't want to do is just get rid of it. What's there to worry about? Damn it, Uncle Xuanyuan saved your mother and your life. And it was a marriage personally given by the emperor. Is this okay if you don't agree to it? He saved our lives, and there are other ways to repay the debt. Why must we marry Xuanyuan Lingfei? I don't want it. You said it's light-hearted, whether you get married or not is not up to you. I heard that Lingfei has arrived in the capital, and he should come knocking on the door in the next few days. I will discuss this marriage with him carefully. Don't cause trouble for me. Yi Lingxue was also very angry when she saw her father suddenly talking about her, saying, I haven't had contact with Xuanyuan Lingfei since I was so old. Why marry someone I don't know? It's better to marry Xuanyuan than to marry him. I won't marry. Upon hearing these words, Yi Xiang became a bit angry and said, Bastard, what nonsense can you say? The fourth prince can also be arranged by you. He raised his hand and planned to hit Yi Lingxue, but was intercepted by Lin Haoyu. Yi Lingxue saw the situation and said, Dad, since I don't agree with this marriage, they are all coming to terminate it. Why do we have to rush to repay the favor? There are many other ways. Please calm down first. He stood up and walked away. Lin Haoyu and Xuanyuan saw that the situation suddenly turned out like this. They originally wanted to pursue Yi Lingxue, but they thought that Yi Xiang was still angry. Xuanyuan advised, General Yi, in this situation, you should sit down and discuss it carefully. Since it's all like this, you shouldn't be sneaking around anymore. Lin Haoyu continued, Uncle Yi, don't be angry. Lingxue has been bothering you recently and has only been able to confront you. Please take it easy. There must be a good solution to this matter. When I find my junior sister, I will talk to her carefully. Yi Xiang also wanted to hit Yi Lingxue on impulse because of the temper of the general. He didn't really want to take action, just wanted to scare her, but ended up losing popularity. After calming down, he regretted it and said, you go find Lingxue. At this time, you can't be impulsive. The two people in the room comforted Yi Xiang and hurriedly left. After all, they were all thinking of finding Yi Lingxue. On the roof, Xuanyuan Lingfei, who had been here for a while, sat dumbfounded. He had heard the words inside the room clearly just now, but this time he came to the capital, he had some doubts. Yi Lingxue seemed to be completely different from the rumor. The words he heard just now further confirmed his hypothesis. Who deliberately distorted the rumors about her? However, he has always believed that even if there is no perfect match for him, he should at least find someone who knows the root of his life. Moreover, he does not want to marry yet, and he is about to pass the imperial examination. His father will definitely force him to have such a marriage, which is indeed a headache. I came back to Beijing to solve this matter. In order to have a smoother divorce, even if Yu Rian came with me, he cooperated and took her along. But his fiancée A.E., who grew up in the High Gate courtyard, seemed to be very opposed, which piqued his interest. Suddenly, he didn't want to dissolve such a marriage so quickly and wanted to see what would happen next. Anyway, if he didn't dissolve it, Yi Lingxue would definitely take action first. He was looking forward to her taking any action. It seems that I should visit the general's mansion earlier and stay for a while. Xuanyuan Lingfei soared into the air and disappeared after jumping a few times in the air. Outside the night mansion, Lin Haoyu said, Xuanyuan Lingfei is in the drunken hometown building. Junior sister must have returned to another courtyard. Hurry up and go back to the palace, I'll find her. Qianyu said, I'll go with you. Lin Haoyu looked at Qianyu and said, do you also have feelings for her? Qianyu, for the sake of friends, I advise you to give up early. She doesn't even want to marry Xuanyuan Lingfei. Do you think she will consider you? Qianyu did not deny, what about you? If you help her regardless of the consequences, you have no other thoughts. Why don't you give up early? Lin Haoyu said, because my chances are always greater than yours. After finishing speaking, he lightly flew away with his toes. Qianyu couldn't deny Lin Haoyu's statement, but he didn't want to give up so much. As he watched Xuanyuan Ling fly away, he was so angry that he stomped his feet and had no choice but to return to the palace. Chapter 5. Visiting Night Mansion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yi Lingxue was indeed in the other courtyard. Although she had an argument with her father, she didn't pay much attention to it. She should eat and drink, and the next day she slept until the third pole of the day. Although Xuanyuan Lingfei wanted to watch the excitement, he still went to visit the night mansion the next day. Although he was about to divorce sooner or later, he still had to worry about the face of the night mansion. After coming to the capital for several days, he had to visit because the two families were also considered close friends. The people of the night mansion saw Xuanyuan Lingfei early in the morning. Although they had been prepared for it, it was inevitable that they were a bit panicked. Even the Emperor Qian had to give way to Xuanyuan Gate 3 times today. Moreover, the night mansion, Yi Xiang, and Xuanyuan Zhen had frequent contact with each other. In recent years, the people of Xuanyuan Gate have hardly come to the capital. Xuanyuan Zhen is said to have rarely left even Xuanyuan Gate, and Yi Xiang was trapped in this capital, so he never saw Xuanyuan Lingfei again. Therefore, Yi Xiang has never seen Xuanyuan Lingfei, and I don't know how his temperament is. The worst thing is that Yi Lingxue has been arguing with him since yesterday. There is no trace either. Yi Xiang rushed to the front hall and saw Xuanyuan Lingfei sitting on a side seat, exuding a grandeur that was even more captivating than Xuanyuan Zhen when he was young. Yi Xiang had been in the capital for so many years, and there were countless young talents in the capital. This was the first time he saw Xuanyuan Lingfei, and he felt that his demeanor was extraordinary. He couldn't help but sigh that he had no chance with his daughter. He said, "I think this must be the virtuous nephew of Lingfei." Xuanyuan Lingfei saw Yi Xiang come in and stood up to salute, saying, "Hello Uncle Yi. Lingfei is coming to the capital for the first time and his father has instructed him to visit him, so Lingfei came to bother him." Yi Xiang gave him a helping hand and said, "You don't need to be polite, dear nephew. Please take a seat quickly." He sat down in his seat and asked, "I haven't seen you for many years. How is your father?" Xuanyuan Lingfei said, "That's great. In recent years, my father has entrusted the affairs of Xuanyuan Gate to his subordinates, and he enjoys his leisure. He often talks about Uncle Qiyi, but because of his status, it's not convenient to enter the capital." Yi Xiang sighed and said, "Your father and I haven't seen each other for many years. In the current situation, we have to wait until I retire and return to my hometown before we have a chance. It was thanks to your father's care when I was young that I became who I am today. I am also deeply grateful, but I have nothing to repay." Xuanyuan Lingfei said, "Uncle Yi, don't say that. It was fate that my father was able to make friends with you when he was young. There is nothing to repay." Yi Xiang asked, "My virtuous nephew came to the capital, but for the sake of marrying my daughter?" Xuanyuan Lingfei saw that he was asking directly, and immediately took out a prepared statement, saying, "Before coming to Beijing, we discussed with our father. We are still young, and it's still a bit early to discuss marriage. We came to the capital to visit our uncle, and there are also some things to deal with. Of course, marriage is also a big matter, but it's funny to say it. I haven't met Miss Yi yet." Upon hearing what he said, Yi Xiang immediately summoned servants to call for Yi Lingxue. Who knew that Yi Lingxue had not yet been found? The whole mansion was bustling with anxiety, and Yi Xiang saw that the person had not returned yet, feeling a bit anxious. Only Xuanyuan Lingfei sat calmly drinking tea. Yi Lingxue heard that Xuanyuan Lingfei had gone to the night mansion, tidied up, and headed towards the night mansion. Lin Haoyu naturally followed suit. She had just entered the mansion and was planning to sneak back to the backyard when she saw her father anxiously wandering around the door. It turned out that Yi Xiang, left and right, couldn't find Yi Lingxue. She found an excuse to come out and compensate a few people at the door to go out and find her. When she saw her, she scolded, "Do you still know to come back?" Yi Lingxue apologized and said, "Father, of course I know I'm back, and I still have to meet some guests." Yi Xiang knew she was talking about Xuanyuan Lingfei. Thinking of yesterday's conflict, his face softened slightly and he said, "Hurry up and go back to the front hall to change your clothes and meet the guests." After finishing, he shook his sleeves and left. Lin Haoyu followed Yi Xiang to the front hall, while Yi Lingxue changed clothes in the backyard. Xuanyuan Lingfei saw that Lin Haoyu was also coming and raised his eyebrows. It seemed that Lin Haoyu was indeed a place that he could come and go as he wanted, and he said, "Why is Lin Xiaozhu here?" Xuanyuan, the young master, is unaware that the young girl Yi was not in good health. General Yi sought treatment from the master of the sword pavilion several times, and over time, he had contact with the sword pavilion. She is also half of my junior sister. Xuanyuan Lingfei had never heard of this before, but it seemed reasonable to think that Lin Haoyu and Yi Fu were so skilled, coupled with the fact that Jian Ji's medical skills were indeed among the best. There were also various things between him and Lin Haoyu, although they were not picky, they were both well aware. After a few pleasantries, there was nothing to say. In addition, several people had concerns, so when Yi Lingxue arrived, she found the atmosphere in the hall somewhat dull. Yi Lingxue wore a goose-yellow dress. As soon as she entered the hall, everyone smelled a pungent smell of powder. Yi Xiang looked at his daughter, who looked like a white ghost, and glared at her. Lin Haoyu coughed a few times with some amusement. Xuanyuan Lingfei grew up in the martial arts world, and the women around him, even if they loved beauty like jade, did not have such a strong powder smell, so he couldn't help but cover his nose. Yiling Xuejian achieved the effect and her footsteps became a bit brisk. She walked up to Yi Xiang and slowly bowed, saying, "Daughter, pay respects to Dad." Turning to Xuanyuan Lingfei again, he bowed and said, "Because there are distant guests, Lingxue has cleaned up well. It's been too late. I hope you don't take it amiss." After bowing to Lin Haoyu again, he finally sat down at the bottom. Xuanyuan Lingfei watched Yi Lingshue's various actions after entering the door. If he hadn't come yesterday, he might have believed that she was just like that. She looked weak and fragile like a young lady from the capital, but yesterday she was in the same position and acted like a completely different person today. He couldn't help but marvel at Yi Lingshue's ability to perform, mainly because this family also cooperated with her. As soon as Yi Lingxue sat down, Lin Haoyu said, "Master Xuanyuan, you also saw junior sister today, but you don't know about this marriage." Xuanyuan Lingfei didn't immediately answer Lin Haoyu's words upon hearing this. He just glanced at Yi Lingxue and saw her sitting next to him, looking soft and weak, with an indifferent attitude. Xuanyuan Lingfei said, "It's too early to talk about marriage now. I only met Miss Yi for the first time today, so we need to slow down a bit." "Are you right, Miss Yi?" Yi Lingxue didn't expect Xuanyuan Lingfei to ask her. She stood up and blessed her, saying, "The orders of parents and matchmakers are up to the elders." Xuanyuan Lingfei couldn't help feeling disdainful in her heart, for she was so good at pretending. Lin Haoyu interjected at this moment, "Since young Master Xuanyuan also cares about this marriage, why do we let others discuss it so much? The reputation of my junior sister's daughter's family is still very important." Xuanyuan Lingfei watched as Lin Haoyu opened fire on him, his thoughts clearly revealed, and he said, "I am innocent." Before he could finish speaking, an attendant burst in and whispered something in his ear. However, when Xuanyuan Lingfei's face changed, he stood up and apologized, "Uncle Yi, I suddenly have a tricky matter. My nephew will leave first and come to the door another day to apologize." Yi Xiang and others saw this and stood up to see him leave. Chapter 6. Recruitment of Marriage in the South of the City. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Yi Xiang asked Lin Haoyu, "Haoyu, what do you think of Xuanyuan Lingfei?" Lin Haoyu pondered for a moment and said, "He is talented, arrogant, but also knows how to restrain himself." Upon hearing Lin Haoyu's words, Yi Xiang nodded in agreement and said, "He is indeed young and handsome. Unfortunately, he is destined to have no chance with our Yi family." He then said to Yi Lingxue, "Don't run around these days, stay in the mansion well." Yi Lingxue also knew that Yi Xiang was doing her best, and Xuanyuan Lingfei was in the capital these days, so it was not suitable to go out. Therefore, she decided to stay in the mansion and make plans after the wind slightly subsided. After staying in the mansion for 3 days, Yi Lingxue received a message from Lin Haoyu, saying that Xuanyuan Lingfei had gone to his mansion to find her, of course, to find what he thought was Lin Jin. Lin Haoyu pretended that Lin Jin had left the capital, and it was best for Yi Lingxue to write a letter to make Xuanyuan Lingfei give up. Yi Lingxue couldn't understand what Xuanyuan Lingfei meant, nor did she know why Xuanyuan Lingfei was pestering her. They had indeed been together for a few days before, of course, using Lin Jin's identity. At that time, she didn't know his identity, thinking that having more friends would always be good, which was why she truly considered Xuanyuan Lingfei a friend. However, when she found out his identity later, she couldn't help but sneak away. Yi Lingxue thought for a moment, and the best way to make Xuanyuan Lingfei give up was to talk about her engagement with Xuanyuan Lingfei. So Yi Lingxue sent a letter to Xuanyuan Ling, in which she said, "Lingxue and I have been good friends since childhood, sleeping together, and our personalities and preferences are similar. However, she is confined in the capital and cannot go out at any time, while I have been used to wandering since childhood, but fundamentally, we are all the same. Since you are determined to divorce and the rumors and gossip around the world are confusing, I think our friendship should also end. After all, friends in the martial arts world are not worth growing up in love, and I can't stand staying in this capital city. So I left early. My senior brother said you came to find me, so don't look for me again in the future. Yi Lingxue carefully read the letter several times and felt that there was nothing inappropriate, which was why she asked someone to give it to Xuanyuan Lingfei. After reading the letter, Xuanyuan Lingfei pondered for a long time and never gave up sending someone to inquire about Lin Jin's whereabouts. On that day, Yi Lingxue heard Ah Qing and Ah Jin talking in a low voice. After careful questioning, the honest Ah Jin told the truth. It turned out that Yi Lingxue has not been out of the mansion in the past few days, which has affected the two of them and has not had the opportunity to go out. On weekdays, the night mansion is very strict with its servants, especially the two of them who follow Yi Lingxue and run outside every day. They have been in the night mansion for the past few days and have been suffocated. Today, I heard that the big merchant in the south of the city, Lu Xiaomao, is holding a martial arts match for his daughter Lu Kaiwei, which has caused quite a stir. Therefore, Ah Qing urged Ah Jin and her to go out and watch the excitement. Upon hearing this, Yi Lingxue remembered that Xuanyuan Lingfei's attention had not been focused on the night mansion recently, and she was really bored. Her father had left early in the morning, so she planned to sneak out with Ah Qing and Ajin to see what they said about martial arts and marriage. Just a few steps outside, Yi Lingxue met Qianyu, who was also watching the excitement. They went to the south of the city together, and Yi Lingxue said to Qianyu, "You can also try it." Although Lu Xiaomao is not an official, he is also a major grain merchant, and the court usually has to give him some thin noodles. I heard that although his daughter may not be as beautiful as the world's #1 beauty Yu Ruyan, she is also a first-class beauty. If you grab the embroidered ball, it is not a bad thing. Qianyu rolled his eyes as he listened to Yi Lingxue's words and said, "Is that how you want me to marry? Besides, why should I win over him? I don't want to compete for the throne. Just let my second brother do this." Yi Lingxue smiled and said, "Your second brother is so angry when he hears you say this. Since you're not going to grab the embroidered ball, why did you come specifically?" Qianyu said, "You're curious. I've heard many people say that there are even people discussing in the palace, so I'm sure they're really interested." Yi Lingxue said, "Okay, since you don't want to grab it, just be quiet and don't cause trouble." This sentence once again caught Qianyu's eye. As the two were speaking, Lin Haoyu also arrived. Yi Lingxue chuckled and said, "Senior brother, are you also joining in the fun?" Lin Haoyu smiled and said, "I have something to do with you. I heard there's a lot of excitement here, so I thought you wouldn't let it go. So I came here directly, but I didn't expect you to be there." He glanced at Qianyu again and said, "The fourth prince is really here all the time." Qianyu said, "Who wouldn't want to watch the excitement?" Yi Lingxue asked, "Is there something urgent?" Lin Haoyu said, "It's not an urgent matter either. It's okay to talk about it another day. Let's see what the marriage proposal is for now." Yi Lingxue knew it wasn't a big deal after hearing him say this, so she didn't ask again. Qianyu snorted lightly and said, "Some people may not be able to sit still before running out in person." Lin Haoyu knew that the two of them had spoken a few words at the entrance of the night mansion that day, and Qianyu had taken revenge on him. Now Qianyu was mocking him, but Lin Haoyu didn't pay attention to him, thinking that he wasn't the only one who couldn't sit still. Instead, Yi Lingxue asked Lin Haoyu, "Senior brother, what's wrong with him? He said that to you?" Lin Haoyu said, "It's okay, he just owes a lip. Just vent it on his own." This made Yi Lingxue and Ah Qing and Ah Jin laugh. At this moment, Lu Xiaomao came out, and after a few pleasantries, Lu Kaiwei came out to hold an embroidered ball. Although Lu Kaiwei was the daughter of a merchant, her family was also considered the richest. They often suffered from famine, and the court also had to rely on their family. Therefore, this young lady's overall demeanor was not inferior to that of an official family. Yi Lingxue thought to herself, why haven't she seen Lu Kaiwei in this capital since childhood? She reached out and poked Xianyu, saying, I really don't think about it. Miss Lu is also considered a national beauty and heavenly fragrance. Xianyu knocked off Yi Lingxue's hand with a fan and said, is this prince the kind of person who only looks at his appearance? They are such a big wealthy businessman, and they can't marry anyone. They need to compete for marriage, and I don't know what tricks they are playing. Yi Lingxue said, just take a closer look and you'll know. A few people stood quite far away, but could see the stands with great enthusiasm. They guessed which young master could grab the embroidered ball. Unexpectedly, Miss Lu looked at the soft and weak person, and the embroidered ball was thrown far away, as if someone was controlling it. It flew straight towards Qianyu's hand. Qianyu was a bit panicked by this sudden change, and was about to bump into his arms. Yi Lingxue pulled Qianyu, and Qianyu narrowly avoided it. Unexpectedly, the embroidered ball tilted towards Qianyu from a tricky angle. Next to Lin Haoyu, he couldn't dodge and the embroidered ball was in his hands. A few people were momentarily confused, and Yi Lingxue frowned. At this moment, someone in the stand said, please come to the stands with the young master who has brought the embroidered ball. A few people exchanged a glance and walked forward. Chapter 7. Early Engagement. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lin Haoyu originally wanted to throw it away, but was surrounded by onlookers and it was too late to throw it away. He heard the people shouting from the stands, his face turned pale, and he couldn't help but look at Yi Lingxue. Yi Lingxue said, there's something fishy going on, let's go up and see the situation first. As he instructed Ah Jin to investigate, Lin Haoyu heard her say and walked towards the stage with the embroidered ball, followed by Yi Lingxue and Qianyu. Entering the stands, Lu Xiumao was greeted with a smile on his face. Yi Lingxue looked at Lu Xiumao and didn't see any clues. Lu Xiumao looked at the few people who came by. He had been in the capital for a long time and knew many high-ranking officials and dignitaries, but it wasn't Qianyu who was holding the embroidered ball. His face visibly froze, and he wasn't very happy. He asked, I don't know what the young master's name is. Lin Haoyu casually threw the embroidered ball onto the stands and said expressionlessly, Lin Haoyu. Upon hearing the name, Lu Xiumao was momentarily stunned and immediately said with a smile, so it's Lin Xiaozhu from the Sword Pavilion, who has been admired for a long time. He turned to his daughter standing at the other end and said, Kaiwei, come over soon. It's Lin Gongzi who caught the embroidered ball. Lu Kaiwei stood on the side, already seeing the situation clearly. Although the one who caught the embroidered ball was not the fourth prince, he was also the young master of the Sword Pavilion, and he looked like a graceful young master, not inferior to the fourth prince at all. She was very satisfied, so she quickly accepted the result. Hearing her father call her over, she immediately went over. Lu Kaiwei walked up to Lin Haoyu and the others, bowed to Lin Haoyu, and said, I didn't expect Kaiwei to be so lucky today. She was caught by Lin Gongzi's embroidered ball, really. Before she could finish speaking, she was a little excited and wanted to tug at Lin Haoyu's sleeve. At this moment, Yi Lingxue stepped forward to block Lu Kaiwei and gently waved her aside, saying, Miss Lu, please take care of yourself. Lu Kaiwei felt a little angry, but she still couldn't hold back and said, Who is this? Lin Haoyu said, My junior sister. Lu Kaiwei just smiled and said, So Lin Xiaozhu's junior sister is from her own family. This sister is so handsome and beautiful. As she approached and pulled Yi Lingxue to get closer to her, Lin Haoyu pulled her behind him, full of guard and said, Miss Lu, we are meeting for the first time today. There is no such thing as a family member. Lu Kaiwei couldn't help but feel embarrassed when she didn't get along well with the two of them. Seeing this situation, Lu Xiumao finally managed to catch a big fish. Quickly approaching, Lu Kaiwei was pulled to the back and apologized with a smile, saying, "Young Master Lin, you see that my daughter is also interested in you, and today you have snatched the embroidered ball. Should we sit down and discuss this marriage carefully?" Lin Haoyu said, "Boss Lu, you said I grabbed the embroidered ball, but I stood there without moving a step. There were so many people grabbing it, why did this embroidered ball just fall into my hands?" Lu Xiaomao's face stiffened for a moment and he said, "It's probably that Lin Gongzi and Xiaonu have a fate. Fate is predetermined, and no matter how much others try to grab it, it's useless." At this moment, Qianyu, who was watching the excitement on the side, suddenly said, "Boss Lu, your family's fate is really powerful. It happened to be in the hands of Brother Haoyu without any twists and turns." Others may not know what Qianyu meant by his words, but Lu Xiaomao naturally knew it. He had originally set up a game to let Qianyu receive the embroidery ball, and this game was completely flawless. However, he did not expect a night of spiritual snow to come out, so he was dodged by Qianyu. Unexpectedly, Lin Haoyu received the embroidery ball. Although he was not a member of the royal family, he was also a major sect in the martial arts world. Lu Xiaomao was also very satisfied with this result, so he couldn't miss this opportunity. He immediately said, "It's a coincidence, but in this public competition, we haven't tampered with it. This martial arts matchmaking competition emphasizes fate. Just keep your promise, I believe Lord Lin will also keep his promise." Yi Lingxue said, "Boss Lu, the focus of this marriage matter was originally on mutual agreement. We came here today to make a scene. My senior brother is from the martial arts world, so he doesn't care about being courteous or worldly. He has never met a girl from your family before, how could he rashly talk about marriage? Although the embroidered ball fell into his hands today, he had no intention. Today's matter is already a bit strange, so where do you start with what you said about keeping promises?" Upon hearing Yi Lingxue's words, Lu Kaiwei was already a little angry about Lin Haoyu and Yi Lingxue's actions earlier. Now, she became even more furious and said, "Why do you say that? The people of the Sword Pavilion are probably bullying too much, aren't they? I have never heard of anyone wanting to retract from receiving my embroidered ball since ancient times. You asked everyone present today to judge and judge. Also, why do you want to make a decision for Lin Gongzi? Do you also want to marry him, so I feel jealous when I saw him take my embroidered ball?" Lin Haoyu said, "What junior sister means is what I mean. Miss Lu, I hope you pay attention to your language." Yi Lingxue said, "Miss Lu, what you said is not to gain sympathy, but rather a bit unreasonable. I admit that we have also done something wrong today, and you have lost face. We are willing to bear all the losses. But in matters of love, we cannot force it. My senior brother has no intention of you. Are you willing to marry someone you just met? My senior brother is from the martial arts world, and you probably haven't even been out of the capital before. Do you know what the martial arts world is like? That is a place where people fight and kill. Why do you insist on marrying him instead of looking for a prince in the capital? Boss Lu, Miss Lu, I believe that with your family, it's possible to find any kind of family in this capital city, right?" Yi Lingxue said a lot of things, and the people of the Lu family also thought it made sense. Unexpectedly, a female voice suddenly spoke loudly under the stands, "Miss Yi can really move people with emotions, but you can't force what you say. It's not like you have a marriage contract but accept it obediently. I don't know how Miss Yi has the courage to speak these words to others." Yi Lingxue followed the voice and saw that it was precisely what Yu Ruyan had said. She and Xuanyuan Lingfei were standing among the crowd. Today, Yu Ruyan was dressed in blue, particularly bright and worthy of the nickname of the world's most beautiful woman. Next to her, Xuanyuan Lingfei was still dressed in the same way as a few days ago, looking at Yi Lingxue and her group of people expressionless. Yu Ruyan continued, "Miss Ye's words just now were not right. Since ancient times, there have been only a few ways of marriage, whether it is from the martial arts world or something, who is not like that. Is Miss Yi still thinking of a few words to deny this embroidered ball? If you say that Lu Kaiwei is unreasonable, I think you are a bit unreasonable. Don't you think you are already contradictory? While you have a marriage contract with brother Xuanyuan, you are also entangled in arguments with your senior brother, and I don't know. Ruyan wanted to continue speaking, but was scolded by Xuanyuan Lingfei, saying, Ruyan, stop. Xuanyuan Lingfei was originally forcibly brought by Ruyan. He didn't expect to meet Yi Lingxue and others, and even saw her sharp-tongued side. Originally, when Ruyan said this to Yi Lingxue, everyone around him was whispering, but he could clearly see the disdain and ridicule that flashed across Ruyan's face. He couldn't explain why, so he stopped drinking Ruyan. Yi Lingxue didn't even think about taking care of Ruyan. The crowd fell silent for a moment, and then there was a person who said, this embroidered ball must not be counted, because Lin Haoyu has already been engaged. Does Miss Lu still want to be a mistress? These words surprised everyone. Chapter 8. Let's talk about. You are listening at novelfull.audio. I only saw a girl wearing a goose yellow dress quickly walk up to the stands, and Lu Kaiwei angrily said, you wild girl who came out of nowhere, full of nonsense. I have never heard of when Lin Xiaozhu got engaged. I only heard the girl say, how could I talk nonsense? Lin Haoyu was originally my princess. In the past, my mother had already agreed to this marriage, but she just didn't have time to announce it. Lu Kaiwei was already angry and didn't think about the girl's identity, but Lu Xiumao was so shrewd. He noticed the girl's words and the expressions of several people in the stands, and then deduced that the identity of the person was Qian Yu's sister, Princess Qianrong, and apologized. Princess Six atoned for her sins. Kaiwei didn't know it was the princess who came. Qianrong said, it's okay not to know who I am, but Lin Haoyu did have a verbal engagement with me. Although it was verbal, what the royal family said cannot be untrustworthy. So, do you still insist that Lin Haoyu marry me like this, Mr. Lu? Qianyu said at this moment, sixth sister, can you keep a low profile? Although you have a marriage agreement with Brother Lin, the young master of Brother Lin's hall is not the only one you can marry. Upon hearing this, Lu Xiumao saw that this cheap son-in-law was no longer possible. He quickly said, Princess Six and Lord Lin are in a good relationship. The fourth prince must not say such things. How can we ruin our good relationship? Well, since Lord Lin is destined to have no chance with my daughter, let's forget about today's matter. Qianyu said, Mr. Lu is really a pleasant person. I feel a little guilty when you say that. Let's do it this way. My brother apologizes to Mr. Lu on behalf of his sister and others. We owe him this debt for now, and we will definitely make up for today's loss. He raised his fist and made a polite gesture to Lu Xiumao. Lu Xiumao thought that owing the fourth prince a favor was also good, and said, how dare I accept the fourth prince's gift? The fourth prince is polite, and today's incident was also unintentional. Let's just forget about it. Qianyu said, since everything has been resolved, we won't disturb Mr. Lu. Goodbye. The group left and Qianrong said, Lin Haoyu, why do you just pick up the embroidered ball casually? Lin Haoyu remained silent, and Yi Lingxue said, today we've hit the road. Their goal is Qianyu. He smiled at Qianyu and said, it seems that the fourth prince's market is good, making them think carefully about recruiting you. Upon hearing this, Qianyu glared at Yi Lingxue and said, it's not your crow mouth. Whatever you say, I'll do it. But fortunately, I have a good brother to cover it. Thank you very much. He patted Lin Haoyu. Lin Haoyu knocked off Qianyu's hand and said, speaking of which, I'm curious about how they arranged the game. How did they know that Qianyu was leaving the palace today? Qianyu said, who knows? Maybe they just wanted to find a better one and happened to see me. Qianrong said, you said this family is really good. So purposeful, why don't you know how to plan well? When you throw the embroidered ball, you want it to fall directly into my fourth brother's hands. I really don't know what you think, it's all so stupid. Fortunately, they didn't succeed. But Lin Haoyu, I've been so helpful to you, you can't thank me enough. Lin Haoyu said, I can solve it without the help of Princess Lu. Qianrong angrily said, you really don't know what to do, you're such a wooden person. Sister Yi, how do you tolerate him on a daily basis? Yi Lingxue smiled and touched Ganrong's head, saying, it's really thanks to you this time, otherwise it would be a bit tricky. But how will you explain it when you go back? Qianrong said, it's okay, just don't let father know. Mother must think I'm joking. If father knows, maybe he will really marry us. He then looked at Lin Haoyu and said, I sacrificed so much this time. Lin Haoyu, you really don't appreciate it. Lin Haoyu's eyelids twitched a few times, but he still didn't speak. Yi Lingxue smiled and looked at the two people, saying, Sixth princess, don't be angry. My senior brother must be very grateful to you in his heart, but he's too embarrassed to say it anymore. Qianrong said, it's okay, my adult has a large amount, so let's not worry about it. It's just Sister Yi. If I don't come today, what do you plan to do? There must be a way, right? Yi Lingxue said, actually, the method is the same as yours, but it may have to be called me. Lin Haoyu asked, are you really planning to use this method? Yi Lingxue said, yes, I can't think of anything else in a hurry, but I definitely don't have the status of Princess 6. At this moment, Yu Ruyan said to the person behind her, Yi Miss really has a spirit of sacrifice. But I still advise you to pay attention to your identity and not forget that you have an engagement with brother Xuanyuan. It turned out that Yu Ruyan and Yi Lingxue were walking the same path, naturally following behind Yi Lingxue and listening to their words clearly. Yi Lingxue said, I naturally know my identity, so there's no need for Miss Yu to remind me. What else did Yu Ruyan want to say? Suddenly, Xuanyuan Lingfei, who was silent on the side, said, Miss Yi, can I talk to you? Yi Lingxue frowned upon hearing him say this, but still agreed and asked, when? Xuanyuan Lingfei said, now, is it convenient? Yi Lingxue nodded, and Xuanyuan Lingfei said to Yu Ruyan, Ruyan, go back first. Yu Ruyan was unhappy in her heart, but couldn't help it. Yi Lingxue planned to leave with Xuanyuan Lingfei. Lin Haoyu reached out and grabbed her, her eyes full of concern. Yi Lingxue smiled and said, Senior brother, don't worry. I'll make it a long story and come back soon. She then said to Qianrong, Princess 6 finally went out of the palace and let the two of them play with you. I'll come find you later. As the two of them left, Yu Ruyan looked at them and said to the others, Young Master Lin, it's best to take good care of your junior sister. Brother Xuanyuan won't marry her, she'd better give up early. After hearing these words, Lin Haoyu said with a cold face, Don't worry, Miss Yu. Not everyone thinks good things that you think are good. Xuanyu said, if Miss Yu has nothing to do, she should go back early. Otherwise, your Xuanyuan elder brother is not here. If someone who is unfamiliar with the capital city gets lost, there will be no hero to save the beauty. Upon hearing these words, Yu Ruyan stomped her feet angrily and left. A few people looked at Yu Ruyan walking away and said, oh my goodness. That Xuanyuan Lingfei is really beautiful. To be honest, he and Yi's sister are really a perfect match together. Before he could finish speaking, Qianyu angrily said, what nonsense are you talking about? Where is he looking? Are you blind when others are blind? Lin Haoyu also said with a cold face, I'm afraid Princess 6 doesn't often go out of the palace, so she has a problem with her judgment of people. There are many good-looking people in the world, why does Xuanyuan Lingfei match my junior sister? Chapter 9. Successful Divorce. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Qianrong didn't expect her two words to almost make the two people around her go berserk. She whispered, I just casually said it, right? What are you doing? Qianyu said, you can't just talk about it. Your sister Yi won't marry him. Qianrong said, but they have an engagement. Lin Haoyu said, so what if we have an engagement? We'll have to withdraw sooner or later. Qianrong saw for the first time that Lin Haoyu and his brother had the same opinion and both had such a big temper, so he remained silent. Xuanyuan Lingfei and Yi Lingxue walked forward, speechless all the way, and arrived at Xuanyuan Lingfei's own courtyard. They led the way in, and Yi Lingxue stood at the door to take a look. She also followed in. Yi Lingxue found that there were many mechanisms and formations in Xuanyuan Lingfei's courtyard, and Xuanyuan Lingfei did not avoid them at all. He did not even remind Yi Lingxue to pay attention. Yi Lingxue knew that Xuanyuan Lingfei was trying her out, but she pretended not to know and followed Xuanyuan Lingfei casually. Upon arriving at the hall, Yi Lingxue said, "Young Master Xuanyuan is really a real person who doesn't show his face. He's usually not in the capital, and I didn't expect this other courtyard to be a hidden mystery." Xuanyuan Lingfei said, "The phrase, real people don't show their faces should be said by Miss Yi." Yi Lingxue said, "So let's not talk in secret anymore. Young Master Xuanyuan, you came to me today for our engagement, right?" Xuanyuan Lingfei saw Yi Lingxue and directly pointed it out, so he stopped beating around the bush and said directly, "It's this matter." "I don't know Miss Yi." Yi Lingxue said, "Young Master Xuanyuan, we both know that we are destined to resign. We are not suitable in any way, but it is best for you to take the initiative. On the one hand, the Yi family owes Xuanyuan Gate a life-saving favor, and on the other hand, this marriage is bestowed by the current emperor. It is not very convenient for the Yi family to come forward. In fact, you don't need to worry. What you worry about is nothing more than my reputation being damaged. I don't think there is any difference between men and women. I am the victim of this matter, and you are the same. Even if you retire, I don't worry about getting married. And my father is also worried about not being able to repay your family's kindness, but there are ways to repay it. There are thousands and thousands of different things, but it doesn't necessarily match our happiness." Xuanyuan Lingfei listened to Yi Lingxue's words, which gave him a new look at Yi Lingxue and helped him unravel the knot. He said, "Okay, since you miss has said that, I will go and get married." Yi Lingxue said, "That's great." Xuanyuan Lingfei thought for a moment and said, "However, Miss Yi is far from being as simple as the ladies in the brothels of the capital. I hope we can become good friends in the future." Yi Lingxue knew it was Xuanyuan Lingfei's pleasantries and left the other courtyard, feeling a stone fall from her heart. The next morning, Xuanyuan Lingfei did indeed step down and withdraw from the marriage. Although Yi Xiang was somewhat unhappy, he had no choice. If Yi Lingxue liked Xuanyuan Lingfei, he could still obstruct her. However, he knew that Yi Lingxue's goal from childhood to adulthood was to withdraw, so he did not make things difficult for Xuanyuan Lingfei. People in the capital are discussing this matter, but the two parties seem to have disappeared without any news. In the evening, the second Prince Qianni came out of his study and saw that it was getting late. He planned to go for a meal. As soon as he opened the door, he took 2 steps and turned around. He looked at the roof and said, "Why did Master Xuanyuan come to my second prince's mansion?" Xuanyuan Lingfei flew down and said, "Come and see you." Qianni smiled and said, "I heard you've been in the capital for several days, and now you only have time to come and see me. Can you walk through the main gate and fly around every day?" Xuanyuan Lingfei said, "Excuse me. This capital is really uncomfortable." Qianni said, "Fortunately, I divided the mansion. Otherwise, if you were to fly around in the palace, it would be a big trouble. Let's have dinner together. Let's talk about it after we finish our meal." Xuanyuan Lingfei and Qianni have had meals. Qianni picked up a pot of wine and sat with Xuanyuan Lingfei in the pavilion, saying, "Congratulations on your successful divorce." Xuanyuan Lingfei said, "What's there to congratulate on? Isn't this very simple?" Qianni said, I thought Lingxue's personality would have to make things difficult for you and make you feel uncomfortable, but I didn't expect you to withdraw so smoothly. Xuanyuan Lingfei was surprised when he heard this and said, "Is Night Spirit Snow very good at causing trouble?" Qianyi said, "That's not true, but if she shares the same strength as you and someone else damages her, she will definitely return it." Xuanyuan Lingfei said, "You do know her. By the way, she is very close to your fourth brother. Are you investigating her for this?" Qianyi smiled wryly upon hearing the words and said, "You know that although Qianyu and I are not at odds, it's just a simple personality conflict, not for the sake of power. Moreover, neither of us wants to sit in that chair. How could we be investigating Lingxue for this?" Xuanyuan Lingfei said, "What people all over the world flock to is something that neither of you brothers wants, and it's hard to say for sure. So why do you know about Lingxue?" "As far as I know, she's very low-key." Qianyi said, "Ling Fei, actually I got to know Lingxue earlier than Qianyu. It was when my father taught me to handle court affairs. I often went to the night mansion, accidentally walked into the backyard, where I saw Lingxue practicing swordsmanship. At that time, I was in my teens, and she was probably only 8 or 9 years old, but her swordsmanship was far superior to mine. Later, I often deliberately went to the backyard and met her several times, either reading books or practicing swordsmanship. At that time, I was young and there was no defense between men and women. The people of the night mansion became accustomed to my visits and allowed me to enter. There were several times when I ran into her and the night general, talking about leading troops to fight. She was truly brilliant and I wanted to get along with her, but she was naturally cold and avoided me, especially when I didn't know where I had a good relationship with you. Later on, fourth brother often went there, and he was more lively than me. Even Lingxue didn't pay attention to him, so fourth brother had a better relationship with her. I investigated Lingxue overnight, and her purpose is very clear. She wants to divorce you. She is afraid that her strength is not enough to compete with you, so she has been working hard. Ling Fei, to be honest, I admire and appreciate her for this." Xuanyuan Lingfei listened to Qianyi's words and remained silent for a long time. He didn't know what to say, and the night spirit Snow was beyond his expectations. Qianyi continued, "Actually, I think Lingxue is really similar to you. If you don't have an engagement, you may become friends or even close friends, even Ling Fei. I think you will fall in love with her." Xuanyuan Lingfei looked up at his friend in shock. Qianyi knew him well, so although their identities were vastly different, they also became good friends. He didn't expect him to say such a thing. In fact, although he withdrew from his marriage today, he was also a bit unhappy. He didn't know why, but he seemed to understand Qianyi's words and said, "But I never thought about marrying Lingxue from beginning to end." Qianyi said, "I heard that Lingxue was in a bad mood today. After drinking all day, Lin Haoyu couldn't stop him. He was afraid that something might happen and called Qianyu to see him. You also know that Qianyu has good medical skills." Before Qianyi could finish speaking, he heard Xuanyuan Lingfei say, "I'll leave first." As he walked away quickly, Qianyi watched his friend hurriedly leave, thinking that he couldn't bear it and couldn't help but shake his head and chuckle lightly. Chapter 10. Give a Chance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon receiving the news from Lin Haoyu, Qianyu hurriedly rushed out of the palace. When he reached the door, he was a bit hesitant to enter. He had always known that Lingxue had an excellent tolerance for alcohol, but it was the first time that Lin Haoyu had called him after drinking it. Qianyu pushed open the door and saw Lingxue sitting at the table. Several empty wine jars had already been placed next to her. Looking up and seeing him, his eyes were a bit confused. Qianyu walked up to her and sat down next to her, taking a jar of wine and saying, "Do you want to drink so much? This wine is quite fragrant." Lingxue said, "Why did you come?" "You came just in time, accompany me to drink, my senior brother doesn't drink." Xuanyuan said, okay, I'll accompany you to drink and celebrate. Yi Lingxue said, what's there to celebrate? Xuanyuan said, isn't the current situation what you've always wanted? Why are you feeling down? Yi Lingxue said, well, I'm not sure. From childhood to adulthood, everyone has said that I have an engagement with Xuanyuan Lingfei, that he is excellent, and even that his confidants are all over the world. They say that I am useless and not worthy of him, and that my father climbed up to this marriage in order to repay his kindness. My biggest wish is to get rid of that engagement as soon as possible and obtain freedom as soon as possible. But now that I'm free, I don't have the joy I imagined, and my heart feels a bit empty. Suddenly, I feel like I haven't done anything in the past decade, so I'm busy getting rid of the engagement. As Yi Lingxue spoke, she grabbed Xuanyuan's sleeve and asked, Xuanyuan, do you think I did something wrong? In the end, I didn't do anything and easily realized my wish from childhood to adulthood, but I persisted in doing it. After saying these words, Yi Lingxue cried unusually. Xuanyuan said, Lingxue, your persistence from childhood to adulthood was already right. We never expected Xuanyuan Lingfei to easily divorce, so all your plans didn't work. But you can't deny everything you've done before just because of this. At least now you're strong enough to decide your own destiny. What's wrong with that? You can do things that many people can't do now, so you shouldn't be sad. You should laugh, no matter what others think. Yi Lingxue wiped her tears and said, you're right. I just felt like I lost motivation when things suddenly resolved. I'm not sad. Xuanyuan reached out and rubbed her hair, saying, then stop drinking. Don't make everyone worry, go back and rest well. Upon hearing this, Yi Lingxue put down the wine jar and said, you can go back too. I'm fine, I'll go out with you for some fresh air. She walked out of the room. Xuanyuan Lingfei listened to Xuanyuan's words and ran to find Yi Lingxue. He suddenly didn't know what to do when he arrived at the door, so he stood still for a long time and heard the conversation between Yi Lingxue and Xuanyuan. Xuanyuan Lingfei was also shocked in his heart. As he watched Yi Lingxue come out, his face turned a bit pale. Yi Lingxue glanced at Xuanyuan Lingfei, didn't want to pay attention to him, and walked forward directly. Xuanyuan Lingfei reached out to grab Yi Lingxue, but was dodged by Yi Lingxue on the side. However, due to drinking alcohol, Xuanyuan Lingfei still grabbed her sleeve. Yi Lingxue said, let go, young master Xuanyuan, take care of yourself. Xuanyuan Lingfei said, I don't know everything you're saying. If I knew. Yi Lingxue asked, if you know, what are your plans? Xuanyuan Lingfei said, Lingxue, I just realized that you, like me, don't want others to influence the future. That's why I decided to withdraw from marriage. But can you give me a chance? Even if I can't become close friends like you, Lin Haoyu, and Xuanyuan, at least I can still become very like-minded friends. Yi Lingxue said, it's not necessary, is it? We don't lack each other as a friend. Xuanyuan young master, let go first. Xuanyuan Lingfei said, just give it a chance, okay? If you don't agree, I won't let it go. After a moment of contemplation, Yi Lingxue said, okay, I promise you. She then urged her internal strength to cut off her sleeve and left without looking at Xuanyuan Lingfei from beginning to end. Xuanyuan watched this scene with his own eyes and didn't disturb him. He wanted to see Yi Lingxue's reaction. On the other side, Lin Haoyu heard that Xuanyuan Lingfei was coming again and rushed over. He saw that Yi Lingxue had already returned to her room to rest, while Xuanyuan Lingfei was still standing there. He said, Xuanyuan young master, I don't want to say the same thing again. Is my Lin mansion the place where you come and go whenever you want? It seems that Xuanyuan Gate hasn't taught you any etiquette. Since you have nothing to do with your junior sister anymore, don't come and disturb her. Xuanyuan Lingfei looked at Lin Haoyu and smiled, that's not necessarily true. Maybe we can also become friends in the future. Lin Haoyu was a bit angry when he heard this and said, someone came to see off the guests. In the future, the other courtyard should be more vigilant, and unrelated people should not be allowed in. Xuanyuan Lingfei seemed to be in a good mood and left without saying anything. Qianyu asked Lin Haoyu, "What does this Xuanyuan Lingfei mean?" Lin Haoyu angrily said, "Whatever he means, a person like him, don't think of anything."